We weren't allowed to watch Sailor Moon because of the magic girl devil powers.
What?
At my dad's, yeah.
Ooh. But it's all about love and saving the world with femininity and sparkles.
It's weird anime that had wands in it, so he's more lenient, I think, with the younger ones. But when I was a kid, he was real strict about that stuff.
So careful.
I also watched it anyway.
Yeah.
I got busted watching Buffy because, of course, my mom walked in and was watching Buffy in the middle of like a sex scene.
Yeah, I didn't watch Buffy until later in life. So I was already in high school when I was watching Buffy. So my mom was like, this is normal for her. She watches that Supernatural TV show, which has the two very hot boys in it that I know nothing about.
Please don't talk to me about that Supernatural TV show right now. I'm very delicate.
I won't.
Welcome to This Is Lit, a podcast where we drink and talk about our favorite books. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Casey.
So raise a glass and let's get started.
Okay, Liz, what are you drinking today?
As we all know, I am now officially old. I am an old white woman, so now all I drink is white wine.
What kind of white wine?
It's 14 hand Chardonnay.
You were a fucking sommelier. How are you going to be out here like I'm drinking white wine? Like we don't all know there's 17 different kinds of white wine.
It's 14 hand Chardonnay, California. It's a 2016, so it's really nice.
Well,
what are you drinking, Casey?
You may be an old white woman, but I am a gremlin in a human body. So I am drinking Back Nine is what this cocktail is called.
What?
It's called a Back Nine. It's an Arnold Palmer with bourbon, but I made a whole batch. I made it in a batch, like as a punch instead of as a single cocktail. So there are 4 cups of bourbon in the
You
pitcher.
might have to bring that to Karina and I's s'mores birthday party when we use my fire pit.
It's very easy and it's not terribly sweet.
I like Arnold Palmer's.
Yeah, and like
I like bourbon. I see
bourbon
nothing
goes
wrong
really
with
well
this
with a sweet tea, but it is incredibly alcoholic. So.
Oh no. Whatever shall we do? I know what we should do. We should talk about this baby right here.
A Dream So Dark.
Yes.
So Dark. It's the second book in the
which the third one does not come out until January.
Does the series have a name of its own? Like I know the book.
Nightmareverse.
It's Nightmareverse. That's right. That's right. So it's the second book in the Nightmareverse, following a Blade So Black, which we reviewed last month, I think.
Yes.
I don't know. Time isn't real. Yeah, so we reviewed A Blade So Black last month, and then we usually, when we have series on the channel, we kind of try to break them up a little bit because we know not everybody's interested in the series, but we were just so into this one, and the last one ended on such a cliffhanger that we really felt like we had to go straight to A Dream So Dark.
And we will be forced to take a break after this one because the third one is not out yet.
Sidebar, and it's supposed to come out in January?
January of 2021.
Well, that's at least it's got a date. Because I noticed something troubling yesterday. My wife and I are moving. We are in the process of buying a house, and so we are moving in 12 days, and so I've started packing already because I figure if I do a little bit every day, it'll be less intensive than if I try to do it all the weekend of. Mm-hmm. But I packed away all our books last night, and when I went through our fiction books, I realized that there are two separate authors who have a habit of writing serials, who I'm a big fan of, and in both cases, my favorite of the series that they've written is the one that they've abandoned, if that makes sense. So Maureen Johnson, she wrote the Sweet Scarlet series. She wrote the Truly Devious series, the Little Blue Envelope series.
Which I still need to read Hand on the Wall. I've had no time.
And she also wrote the Shades of London series, which we recorded on this podcast.
Yes.
But she's not released the 4th book. It's been 5 years since the last one. but like all three of the existing Truly Devious books have come out in that 5-year space. Like, so she's clearly just kind of abandoned that particular project. And then the other one
To
is
be fair,
Jasper
Truly
Ford.
Devious was a giant undertaking.
Well, but why did she start a new series before she finished the old series?
Because sometimes you just gotta follow the spark. You gotta fill your breadbasket.
But I want to read about ghosts. The other one. So it's been 5 years since the last Shades of London book, but the other author is Jasper Ford, who is one of my favorite, mine and Karina's favorites. He wrote the Thursday Next series. He also wrote like the kind of a Goldilocks type series where there's like it's kind of more adult version of fairy tales. And he also wrote a book called Shades of Grey, not 50 Shades of Grey, Shades of Grey, which is about a dystopian world in which people are placed in classes based on the range of the color spectrum that they are able to see. And it was incredible. It was one of my favorite books, and it never got the follow-up sequel. It was supposed to be a trilogy. It's only one, and it has been 9 years since that one. And he has written so much other stuff since then, and I, of course, my favorite, I just seem to latch on to the ones that the authors themselves are not super interested in working on. So that's a tangent that had nothing to do with anything, but I just wanted to say that I'm very grateful to L.L. McKinney for finishing this series because I've got really
Queen,
attached to it.
we love this series. Please finish
it. Very into this series, would be very upset.
So into this series. There were a couple times where I read this book and I just had to close it and go take a walk. You know how like you get to those points in books where you're like, gonna go take a walk.
Yeah, I read this book all in one sitting while I was at I was doing a gig, and I had a lot of waiting in between my performances. And so I read the whole thing in just one sitting, like just sped through it because I was so into it.
I started it yesterday at the girls' morning nap and finished it yesterday before the Chiefs game. So they had like a mini nap before dinner, so that's when I finished it at like 4:00 yesterday.
Yep.
I really enjoy it when my girls nap.
But this book picks up right where the last one left off with Alice has just gotten home to her mother, who is very
defeating
angry.
the Black Knight, and Chester has been killed but resurrected. And so
she doesn't know that yet.
No, she doesn't know that. So she gets home, and her mama is not happy with her daughter. And I would not be happy with my daughters if they were like, yes, I promise to call you and I won't sneak out and blah, blah, blah. Then they sneak out and don't call me and all this stuff.
Yeah, she's basically disappeared off her mother's radar for an extended period of time, skipped the day of school, and then her mom hears that the field at her high school has been torn up, and like her daughter is acting very weird. She's very, very angry, and this is not the first time like this has come up. Like we talked about last time, how interesting it was to actually deal with that concept of the superhero is a kid who has a parent who's actually paying attention.
Yeah, which is really nice, actually. Like, do you remember, I know it's Butch Hartman, so he's a complicated person, but the Danny Phantom series on Nickelodeon, that was one of my favorite TV series for a long time. I love Danny Phantom. And, like, he actually had parents that paid attention and cared about him.
Sort of. They didn't pay enough attention to realize that they had
but to be fair, his father was an idiot.
Yeah. But this is, like, really the only case where you've got a kid who's like, can I hold off on the world saving because I've got to figure out how I'm going to sneak out of my house?
Yeah.
Or make excuses to my mother. Like, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I have to figure out how to get around this real quick.
Yeah. Around normal-ass teenage rules that most people have. A lot of times people are just like, they snuck out, and there's not any. But in this one, like, there is actual tangible threat because her mom is paying attention and her mom is worrying about her.
Which she should. Often mommies do.
So Alice kind of has a breakdown, and she
does, and her mom is like
telling her mom about this.
Yeah, and her mom is like, clearly something is going on with you, and we need to. And like she does like what a good mom does. She's like, you're still in trouble, and I'm still mad at you, but clearly something is going on. So we're going to set that aside for now and figure out what's going on. I need you to talk to me. Which, you know, she's being a good mama.
But
you know,
Alice doesn't tell her.
Because she gets a phone call that says Chester, who's supposed to be dead, kidnapped Maddie and disappeared. And also, too, beat up the Tweedledum twins.
Yeah. So she gets a message from Courtney being like, you have to come back to the pub right now.
I adore Courtney. Poor Courtney. She's the Dawn in this situation. Poor Courtney.
And so this cuts their conversation short, and she manages to actually get back into Courtney's car to leave with her by telling her mom that Chess has been in a car accident and they're going to see him at the hospital.
We're going to the hospital to go see him. And she's like, you call me from the nurse's station when you get there.
Yeah. So she goes, because Alice seems kind of like, attitude-wise, she's kind of got this attitude of, that's a problem for future me. Like, I'll cross that bridge
for future
when
Alice.
I come to it. Like, there's too much going on right now for me to worry about how I'm going to make this lie hold up.
Yeah,
I'll
and she
that
gets
out
there.
later.
Yeah, she gets there and is like, oh my goodness, you know, they kind of explain everything that's been happening, and everyone's still kind of beat to crap from their last boss fight that they just had.
Right.
And then, like, she gets a phone call on Courtney's phone from her mother, and Alice is like, quick, like, the Duchess, who is the Russian gatekeeper, who has a very thick Russian accent.
The northern gatekeeper.
Yeah, the northern gatekeeper. In Russia, and she has a very thick Russian accent. Alice hands her the phone and is like, this is the hospital we're at, please help me, my mother is mad at me. And the Duchess takes mercy on her.
Yeah, delivers this
very fun scene to read.
Yeah, she delivers this performance as some Georgia Peach at a reception desk,
The Southern Georgia Peach nurse.
And she succeeds in fooling.
Yes, she gets Alice off the hook.
Mom.
And basically, Alice is like, I don't know what to do. The Tweedledoms are going to go look for Chess and all this stuff. And Alice pretty much has to, like, go home and recuperate and heal a little bit and kind of figure out what the crud is going on. And then her mom is like, come on, we're going to go see your Nana Kay, your grandma, who is her dad's mother.
Yeah, her dad's mother.
And she has a degenerative brain disease. Yeah, and so she had an episode the night before, so they went to go see her, and like they go shopping, and it's like it was really nice to have kind of like those little family scenes with Alice of like just these 3 generations of like women who are like holding each other together, kind of, because I like what I saw in like Nana Kay and Alice's mom and me is very much me, my mom, and my grandmother. Especially when she starts talking about Alice's boothang.
Yeah, she sees Alice
talking to Chess.
Chess, because Chess
is supposed to be dead.
Yeah, Chess shows up outside.
And it's like, she wants me to hurt you.
And he seems to be under the control of something. And he resists it, and he kisses Alice.
Yeah.
And I guess her Nana Kay.
I don't know. Have you seen her? I'd be attracted to that.
I mean, yeah, but like, yeah, he kisses her, and her Nana sees it. Luckily, her mother doesn't. But then her Nana's teasing her about it.
Her boo thing.
But then the other thing that happens in this time is her Nana gives her a necklace, which I feel like
into a chain.
It feels like some sort of MacGuffin. Feels like something is going to come of that. It's like this chain, like this black chain with a little.
Okay, I know it's far too early for conclusions, but I think this necklace is somehow connected to the Queen of Hearts, the Black Queen.
Do you think now that Chess is secretly a Wonderlandian that's been fooling them all the whole time? Or do you believe me that he's just a human that got caught up in the shit?
At this point, I believe that he is a human that got caught up in shit, because we also do find out who the Black Knight is. But at the same time, I'm more leaning towards, because this whole book, Chess, is not necessarily himself. And it's the thing that gets me though is the violet eyes with Chester. That's the thing that I'm like, that's a very
Liz Taylor had
Wonderlandian.
violet eyes.
That's true. That's true. She did have violet eyes.
Some people just do. But at any rate, she gets this necklace from her grandma, and she goes home with her mom. Her mom tries to get her to open up again, but like the moment has kind of been lost.
Yeah. And then Alice goes into her bedroom and the Black Knight is in there.
Yeah. So then they decide to go to bed, and she goes into her bedroom, and the Black Knight is in her house, and he attacks her.
Pretty much.
And
her mom, this is how her mom finds out that her daughter is a teenage superhero.
Which honestly is good. It was not tenable for her not to know anymore.
Yeah.
Like at this point. Sometimes, like stories just override it by just being like, parents don't notice. But since there's been so much emphasis put on it by McKinney about that her mom is noticing the changes in her and stuff,
and
it's
also
just untenable.
It's been a year that she's been doing the mighty fighty crime fighty thing.
A mighty fighty crime fighty thing.
Don't judge me.
Yeah. So he destroys their entire house. He kind of targets her mom a little bit to get her off of him, but that backfires and she kicks his ass.
Yeah.
She kicks his ass and he disappears, and then she has to explain the whole thing to her mom.
Yeah. And her mom has a mini freak out because she's like, how do I protect my baby? And Alice is like, I'm the protector now. And I also really kind of like this as like a little bit of a metaphor of like her mother kind of letting go of her baby since she's 17. She's growing up. She's going to start going out into the world and making her own decisions where she can't protect her.
Right.
And so she's like, this transition is coming a lot sooner than I expected, and I was not prepared for it.
Yeah,
but she's a good mom. They have a sleepover in the living room and eat brownies and talk about it.
Yeah, but her mom is not happy about it. But Alice convinces her that at the very least she needs to finish what she started before she can hang up the daggers, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so then she goes back to
She goes back to school the next day.
Yeah, she goes back to school the next day and sees Chess there again. That's right. That's right. I'm like, everybody gets split up at some point.
Yeah. And did you notice too that like the names of these chapters is like over like the course of like this big kind of like mini arc of where everybody gets split up, the chapters create the phrase all is chaos and pain?
Yeah, I didn't at first because I was reading on Kindle, and so I literally had it on my smartphone, so it was like small and I was just kind of scrolling. And
I was reading it so fast that I'm like, wait a second.
My smartphone app also like crashed on me in the middle.
Oh, boo.
Like this smartphone app was down for like an hour in the middle of the day. So I kept having to close it and reopen it just to turn pages. So I didn't notice at first, but at the end I noticed in the last couple of chapters. And so I went back and looked and saw that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so everyone gets split up. Essentially, Alice is supposed to meet Court at the car, and they're supposed to drive back to the pub, but she sees Chess and she follows him. It was a trap, and she gets like engulfed by goo.
Called Slithe? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, like slithy tove. Like slithy tove.
And it's supposed to be kind of like in Wonderland there was dust, which is like creates the magic of the world. Slithe is like the dark version of dust.
Sort of, yeah. It's like corrupted dust. But
corrupted, evil, vile dust.
And that's also what's filling up Chess's wounds and like keeping him alive, it seems.
Yeah.
She is consumed by this slithe, and she ends up in between worlds in like the place that she has to travel through when they go to Wonderland, but she's only ever there for like a split second. For whatever reason, she's actually being held hostage there. And she gets stabbed by this blood-covered woman, and then like falls.
After she has a conversation with her mirror self.
Yeah. There's a lot of Alice's reflection coming to life and talking to her in this book. Which I think kind of...
And her reflection is dressed as Princess Serenity.
Yeah, because that's the... Yeah.
That's the cosplay she was in the night her dad died.
Right.
And then she ends up falling near the Eastern Gate.
Which is in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, on our world, is in Tokyo.
Yeah.
So she falls near that gate and she meets, oh gosh, what are their names? My phone is
Haruka and Romy?
Haruka and Romy. Romy?
Romy. It's Romi.
Yeah. Haruka.
LL McKinney Love. How do you pronounce her name? Please tweet at us.
Haruka, I know for the same reason that she knows Haruka. Haruka is the human alias of Sailor Uranus. Actually, that's the first name of Sailor Uranus.
Yeah, it is. Man, I need to rewatch Sailor Moon.
Well, even in the book, she kind of like she notices and she's like, oh.
I've forgotten that little detail, even in just 24 hours.
But yeah, so Haruka is the guardian for the Eastern Gate, and Romy is the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Like Romy is Haruka's Hatta, essentially. And they say it'll take you weeks to get back to the Western Gate.
The fastest way would be by plane here, but you have no passport, and people will be suspicious of that and how you got here.
Yeah, how did you get here if you didn't have a passport? So she goes to Tokyo briefly to stay with them, and
while this is going on,
then this is where we start getting the scene splits, because Court goes to the pub to say that she saw Alice getting consumed by this stuff.
Alice is missing. She doesn't know what happened to her. She just found her bag.
And she saw her follow someone away and then found her bag. And so she goes to the pub to ask for Hatta's help, and then the pub is attacked by
Chester
and his band of like fiends. Are fiends and nightmares different, or do the Wonderlandians call them fiends and the humans call them?
Nightmares are created from humans. Fiends are nightmares that used to be Wonderlandians.
That's right. Okay. So yeah, Chester and a bunch of fiends show up and completely destroy the pub. And
there's a massive explosion.
Duchess
and
manages to transport everybody to Wonderland.
Yeah,
but
Duchess
wrong.
and Odabeth go one direction. Courtney, Zelon, and Addison go another direction. Addison also is beat to shit.
Yeah, because he was already in bad shape.
Yeah.
And he's still fucking poisoned.
Yeah, lest we forget, he's been doing all this while poisoned.
Yeah, so it's been a whole time. And, of course, Xylon is eager to get back to Odabeth. And they say, well, we were all planning to go together. Once Alice got here, we were all planning to go together to
the Red Queen's Castle to find the heart.
The Red Queen's Castle. So let's all just head that direction, and hopefully everybody else will meet us there.
We'll all meet up there.
It's one of those branching narratives that I think is always very satisfying. Lord of the Rings does a similar thing with the Fellowship. After
we're all planning on going to Mordor. Let's just go there.
Everybody just heads in that general direction, and hopefully we'll run into the others on the way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta fucking do what you gotta do. Like shit's a mess.
Yeah. And basically, Hatta and Courtney and Zelon have this entire side adventure of trying to get somewhere safe. And Courtney, bless her little heart, is like, I will use a stiletto as a weapon.
Louboutin.
Yeah.
Not a stiletto, a Louboutin.
A Louis Vuitton.
Bitch has red heels. Yeah.
I liked how earlier in the book when she's like, so am I really going to have to kidnap you for like some cross-country thing to get you to do this? And she's like, what happens if the police pull you over? She's like, I'll just cry some white girl tears and we'll be fine.
Yeah. So, they end up meeting up with some villagers and going to the village with the village healer is the one who finds them and takes them back to her village, and she's treating Addison.
I think Nady? It's Naette. Nady,
yeah,
I guess.
But yeah, so she takes them back and starts taking care of them. Meanwhile, Alice has been stabbed by this bloody person and fallen into Wonderland proper, and she's not
Yeah.
actually injured, and found Haruka and Romy, who have decided now that the best thing to do after hearing, because Alice was on the phone whenever the explosion happened with Hatta, they've decided the best thing to do is to take Alice to the Red Queen's castle, because that's where everybody else is going.
Yeah.
And
Or
they're
at
going to
least
do this
get her as
by
far as they can.
they're going to do this by flying on a dragon.
Which is tight.
Sick.
I really want to
I don't know
do
about
that.
you. I'm not picturing the dragons in this like
No, I'm picturing like Spirited Away.
Spirited Away. That's what I was going to say.
Spirited Away.
Yeah, I was picturing a more traditional Japanese dragon like Spirited Away. But yeah, so Romy has a dragon.
Yes. Also, too, the Red Queen's dragon takes a very special interest in Alice when she comes by.
Yeah, so there's two dragons. The Red Queen's dragon, which has not flown with anyone since the Red Queen disappeared.
They do something kind of like imprinting. It's like if you have a bond with a dragon, you have a bond with a dragon.
Yeah.
If you don't bother.
Right. So they take Romy's dragon, who she baby talks, which is hilarious because Romy's kind of
If I had a little baby dragon, I would do the same thing.
Romy's kind of strict and severe in the same way as the Duchess, less lighthearted than Addison. And so it's funny to see her baby talk this dragon. It reminds me of how I talk to my dog. But
big black German Shepherd that could be the Grimm. He baby boy. With a knife.
He is baby.
He is baby. He's the sweetest baby.
Comes up into the bed between me and Karina and rolls over on his back and puts his head on my shoulder. And
he baby.
Old
he won my heart the one time I brought the girls over, and he's just like the lightest of snoot touches on their head.
I love these children. They are my friends.
They are my puppies now.
Yeah, he's very gentle. But Romy's dragon is kind of the same way once it warms up to them, and they ride in a basket. They, unfortunately, the town in which the dragons are corralled is attacked by the Black Knight and a bunch of nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
But in this process, Alice gets knocked down, and she's almost stabbed through and through from behind by one of the nightmares.
But the Black Knight gets in the way because things are starting to go through his mind.
He's starting to remember who he was before he was Black Knight. He's starting to have memories. Yeah. We know at this point all we know is a name, Humphrey. But we don't know anything else.
No.
And then Alice and Romy and Haruka escape, and this is when Alice learns that the Duchess and Hatta
and Romy,
like the Xylon replaced Romy.
Yeah. Romy used to be the White Knight.
The White Knight. Yeah, and then
and so she assumed that the guard of the Southern Gateway was the Red Knight. He was not. Humphrey was the Red Knight.
So then we now know that Humphrey was part of this little squad along with the Duchess and Romy and Addison that were kind of besties that were all Hatta was the knight that was assigned to the Queen of Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Humphrey was the Red Knight, and then Humphrey and the Duchess were Red Knights, and Romy was the White Knight. There's so many names. There's so many characters. I love fantasy for that reason, but then when you're trying to discuss it and you don't have a book in front of you.
I've already forgotten the name of Nadie's grandchildren.
And I don't have my book is on my phone, and my phone is dead, so I can't even look it up. At any rate, so she learns this, which is about the time the book jumps back to Hatta, who was in a healing bathtub when the Black Knight climbed
to be fair, Zelon has gone ahead to the Red Queen's castle to try and find Odabeth. Mm-hmm. So at this point, it's just Addison and Courtney. And he's just like lounging, naked in a bath.
He's half asleep. It's like healing. There's healing herbs in there. And he wakes up, and the Black Knight, grievously injured Black Knight, is just hanging out in the room. And this is when we find out that not only
Can I just say that this entire scene plays out like an anime, and it just made me squeal so much, and I loved it.
I saw where it was going well before it went there.
I like.
But we find out not only were Addison and Humphrey brothers in arms, they were also lovers. And they were roommates.
Oh my god, and they were roommates.
Yeah, so the Black Knight's helmet has been damaged in the fight with Alice, and Addison knocks it off. Sees that it's Humphrey, who has red hair and blue eyes.
Ooh.
Very handsome. Very handsome. And Addison
dashing
has
coloring.
A little bit of a meltdown. It's actually
because he thought Humphrey was dead.
He thought Humphrey was dead.
He's already kind of started a thing with Alice.
Humphrey disappeared the same time the Red Queen did.
And so he just assumed Humphrey was dead. But, like, even when he was under the Black Queen's control, he always said, no matter what, I will not hurt Humphrey.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we've seen Hatta be kind of ruthless before in the books. And in this case, he's not. Even though this guy is still clearly his enemy, he's just like, I'm not going to hurt you. And that just confuses the Black Knight more, and he gets upset.
Yeah.
And
because he doesn't remember.
He keeps having these flashbacks of like brief moments, like lying in the grass on a picnic. Or the most interesting one is when they're talking, when the knights are talking about how they're about to be reassigned
to the princesses.
Which again, this goes back into like theorizing territory. But to me, the fact that Humphrey seems incapable of hurting Alice is a good indicator of my previous theory from the last book that Alice is the princess, the Red Queen's.
I'm still firmly on that because the Red Queen was the daughter of the Black Queen.
Right.
Queen of Hearts. So, and her grandmother said it's from her great-grandmother.
Yeah.
Which would be Queen of Hearts.
Yeah. So, Humphrey is struggling, and they kind of tussle, and he leaves. And that's when Hatta realizes that if Humphrey didn't die when he disappeared, and he disappeared at the same time as the Red Queen, then maybe the Red Queen is the one who's behind all of this.
Because she was the only other person who knew Hatta had the eye.
Which means that them going to her castle is a trap. And so he does some real stupid shit to get to that castle. Because he's like, well, I got to get there, and I understand that I'm injured and that I have not had the time to heal. Do you have a potion that will put me on steroids for the next 12 hours so I can get there and deal with this? And the healer Nady is like, yeah, but it might kill you after the fact.
The cumulative hangover will kill you.
And he's like, it's fine.
It's fine. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Anyway.
And that is why
it's fine. If I go to the castle, I'm going to die anyway because it's too far into Wonderland for my banishment curse. So who gives a shit? And I'm just like...
That's why Hatta and Alice make a terrible couple because both of them are like, that is a problem for future us.
Also, like, as much as I do like Hatta, Alice, and as much as it, like, lends itself to my previous ships, like whenever I was in the Disney fandom for a while.
Who's your new one?
I'm a lesbian at heart. I am a lesbian. I am a lesbian. And Haruka is cool, and she has a katana.
And they both can discuss Sailor Moon.
And they both seem super into each other.
Yeah.
So, like, if Hatta wanted to go back and be with Humphrey and they could be gay, and that meant that Alice and Haruka could be lesbian together, that would be okay with me. At this point, I'm not super angry at any ship that comes out of it, except I
would also be okay if there was, like, some consensual, like, groupness going on as well.
a YA novel, so don't get your hopes
I
up.
know.
The only ship I'm not super into is Alice and Chess. It just seems
Yeah, that's the one I'm not super
it
into.
doesn't seem like necessarily contrived, but it seems like again one of those like things where publishers like to push the love triangle.
Yeah, it seems a very kind of puppy love and not necessarily.
It's like we've seen it time and again, like with the Hunger Games and even with Harry Potter to a certain extent, like this that like publishers of YA novels and especially YA novels that have female leads love to push the love triangle angle.
What do you call this? Because it's Chester, Hatta, and Haruka, and let's see who else is there.
Alice.
Alice.
Humphrey.
So there's 4 of them.
It's a pentagon.
Is it
no, because you forgot Humphrey.
Humphrey. Yes, Humphrey.
So everyone is converging on the Red Queen's castle. Although Hatta seems to be the only one who has realized that they're walking into a trap. Romy and Haruka have a disagreement because Romy is concerned about her gateway.
Yeah, after they run back into the Duchess and Odabeth.
Yeah, they did. Those two groups converge, and Romy goes back to the Eastern Gate, but Haruka refuses to go with her because she wants to stay with Alice and help her see this through. So Odabeth and Duchess and Alice and Haruka and Xylon roll up on.
Oh, Xylon's already there.
Xylon's already there?
Yeah. She got there before them. I
thought they met before they got there.
No. Remember how they surrendered? No. Okay. No. Xylon's already there. Basically, what kind of happens is they get there, and Alice is like, everything looks immaculate, but when she touches something, dust comes off on her hands. And so she realizes this is all an illusion. This is a verse. Something is wrong. And tries to keep Odabeth from using the eye to find the heart. Because if Odabeth reveals that she has the eye and uses it...
Alice figures out it's a trap about 3 seconds too late.
Yeah.
And then this scary bloody lady, which at this point I was not clear that this bloody lady wasn't the Red Queen.
Yeah, and I think that's the point.
Yeah. She's the same one from Alice's vision when she was in Between Worlds that stabbed her. This bloody lady shows up and she takes the eye and she has the Black Knight throw all of them into the dungeon. And then she tells the Black Knight...
because they're not going to surrender until the Chester shows up with a blade at Xylon's throat and is like, give us the eye.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, fine.
So she says, Chester has been a much better servant to me than you have. You could prove yourself by going and cutting off Alice's head and bringing it back to me.
It's very Snow White and the Huntsman kind of a thing.
Take
her out into the woods, cut out her heart.
I was thinking it was more Queen of Hearts. Off with her head. And so the Black Knight goes down with Chess following him to make sure he goes through with it. And he starts trying to talk Chess out of his bewitchment because he does not want to hurt Alice. He feels protective of Alice and he doesn't want to hurt her.
And he knows Chess doesn't want to hurt Alice if he could remember who he was.
And so he tries to talk Chess out of his bewitchment. That doesn't work, but what does work is Addison sneaking up on Chess and putting him in a sleeper hold and knocking him out. And so then Addison and the Black Knight go rescue, or they bring out Alice, and they leave the rest of them in the dungeon because they have a plan.
Because they're like, if I bring the others out, she'll know something is wrong. We're basically going to have to try and overpower her. And the bloody lady catches them.
Yeah, she catches
about a plan.
This is where it gets to the point in every fantasy novel. We reach in every fantasy novel a point where some mystic...
This is all happening in your head.
Some mystic mumbo jumbo starts happening, and there's no real explanation for it except for magic. And it's kind of hard to explain because it's very much just imagine it however you want to imagine it. This goes down between Alice and...
Reflection Alice.
And Reflection Alice, where Reflection Alice is like, I am your muchness. I am the reflection of the strongest part of you. You have to access that in order to...
You've kind of kept me locked away, and at the moment, the Bloody Lady is trying to corrupt you the way she corrupted the Black Knight and Chester. And if you don't fight this and wake up, your friends are doomed. Addison is doomed. And basically, she's like, I am your muchness. I am the part of you that you've kept locked away. And I had to hide here, or else the Bloody Lady would have found me. Because she basically is kind of like a manifestation of everything Alice had ever felt for her father.
Yeah.
And
it's got a lot to do with her grief and her
her grief
anger
and
at what happened to her dad.
All of it buried for so long that she has been afraid to kind of feel the love she had for her father, because if she feels the love, then it makes the grief worse.
So Alice does manage to overcome, and she strikes the Bloody Lady down.
Yeah.
It's kind of confusing because the Bloody Lady appears to be dead. They have
But the heart is at the center of the Bloody Lady. So it's like, is the Bloody Lady even real?
Yeah, it's very confusing. And then it's made even more confusing by the fact that the Bloody Lady's body doesn't stick around. A bunch of the fiends go and cover it up, and they all melt into the floor and disappear, and the body is gone.
Which makes me think the Bloody Lady could be like the next step in being a fiend, kind of a thing.
Maybe,
possibly.
It's honestly, this was the one part of the book I did not care for. Not the general concept of it, but the anticlimax of it was unsettling. And I'm willing to mark that down to middle book syndrome. This happens a lot in middle books in a trilogy, where because you don't know the end game, what happens in the middle doesn't necessarily make sense to you, the reader. And I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt on that, but it did feel very abrupt.
I loved the whole scene where it's like she's going through memories of her dad. I loved that. That also was very anime, and I loved it so much.
Yeah, I liked the scene, how the scene played out.
Yeah.
It just felt...
The defeat of the Bloody Lady, though,
was
a little confusing, and it did feel very abrupt, but I don't really see it so much as it's not a scene for defeat, it is a scene for setback. And you're trying to accomplish two very different things with those scenes.
It's just like the tone of the book at the end is everybody's like, we did it. And I'm like, clearly you didn't. Clearly there's more shit about to come your way.
Yeah.
Like, and
it's about to go down.
Yeah. But everybody's book seems to be like,
moment,
we killed the big bad. And I'm like, this isn't the big bad. Either it's not the big bad.
And they still don't have the heart. So Hatta is still poisoned. The White Queen is still poisoned.
Yeah, and in her, coma.
But at the end...
Hatta almost dies.
Yeah. The only way to lift his curse is if he is pardoned. His curse is pardoned. And so Odabeth...
They grab Odabeth from the prison. They bring her back up to pardon him. And it doesn't seem to work. He seems pretty much gone. And she says, well, he was cursed by 2 royals, and there's only one of me.
It takes 2 royals to lift the curse.
And then the next chapter is Hatta waking up.
Yeah.
And his curse
that
hardened.
Shouldn't have worked, but okay, we're not going to question it.
Which is more evidence for Alice as a secret royal. Yeah. So that's pretty much where the book leaves off, with Hatta barely evading death, Humphrey joining the squad, tentatively and uncomfortably.
Mighty Fighting Nightmare Squad.
They've rescued Maddie from the dungeon.
They've rescued Chester.
Yeah, because when the Bloody Lady dies, Chester is freed. Luckily, he doesn't die because they weren't really sure.
Yeah, they weren't sure if
his life force
the bond was severed, if he would survive or not.
But he does, and he's pretty fucking shaken up. And he's got some pretty intense guilt about what's happened.
Yeah, but the book ends on a relatively hopeful note. Alice is being open with her mother. Her place is getting completely remodeled. But she's in a good spot with her mom. You know, Hatta's not going to die immediately. They still have to do the search for the heart, but they have some breathing room.
Yeah, it's not nearly as climatic as the finale of the first book.
No, the first book was like, I need the next one and I need the next one now. This one is like, okay, I can take a breath.
I can wait till January.
I can wait until January. We're in a good spot.
Yeah.
It's, not everything is solved, but nobody's currently in immediate danger that we know of. It's coming.
It seems fair to say that things are going to get more.
Alice does wear the necklace that her grandmother gave her, which she also says, when you're not wearing it, keep it in the box.
Yeah.
Which I wonder if that is some hint to something.
Kind of MacGuffin. It's a MacGuffin.
Yeah, if it's a recharging box or if it's a hiding box.
It's either a MacGuffin or a Chekhov's gun. I'm not sure which, but it's definitely one.
Well, if it's a Chekhov's gun, you have to fire it before Act 3.
Well, the beginning of Act 3.
Well, yeah.
So we'll find out. What would you rate?
We'll find out in January.
Yeah, and this definitely will be one of our books for either January or February. You can count on that.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're both very invested in the series, really enjoying it thus far. What would you rate this one?
I'd probably give this one a 3.25. Like, it's good. It was good, but I had a little trouble following all the separate plot lines sometimes, but maybe that's because I read this in a day and, during nap time.
Right.
But it was really good. I enjoyed all the actionness. I liked all the anime references. I liked all the Alice in Wonderland references. I loved Alice's kind of character development.
Mm-hmm.
I got I gasped out loud when it was like Addison told Humphrey that he loved him. I'm like, it made me so happy. So it's like, this was like a really good, fun book. It was a quick read. I really enjoyed it. It was one of those things that it's like the spark was just not quite as bright as the first one for me. The first one was like being stuck in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night, and then suddenly there's a 7-foot bonfire to your left.
Interesting
this one
metaphor.
was like a 5-foot bonfire.
I liked it, but like I said, I felt like the climax or the end of it was kind of rushed. And again, that might be middle book syndrome. And honestly, a lot of times the middle of a trilogy suffers for that, just because you get to do all the exposition and the fun stuff in the first book, and then you don't get a full payoff in the second book.
No.
So there's no exposition and there's no payoff, which makes it very hard to write a good second book. I think this is a good second book, but I'd also give it 3.5 or 3.25 bottles.
Yeah.
I like the other one better.
And we do get some payoff with the reveal of who the Black Knight is.
Oh, definitely.
And with Chester. So we do get some payoff. We don't get all the payoff, but we get some, which I appreciate.
Definitely. Yeah. So yeah, that gives it an even 3.25 bottles from us.
That's
we've got
a pretty
an
highly
agreed upon
rated
rating
book from us lately.
So definitely check it out. If you haven't read it yet, I'm not sure why you're here because spoilers. And this one probably will have a spoiler warning for it on Twitter and YouTube and all those places because it is fairly
relatively
new.
Recent. Yeah.
And obviously we are sitting here doing all of the plot details, so don't fucking listen to this. This is too late to tell you this, but don't fucking listen to this episode.
And we do so much enjoy it. She was actually supposed to be at Comic-Con. Did you know that before it got canceled?
I did know that, yeah. My best friend Kelly met her at the Branson Comic-Con last year.
Oh, man. Yeah, LL McKinney, if you do another KC Planet Comic-Con, let us know. I would love to meet you and have you sign all 3 of these, because I will be getting all of them in hardback.
Ever again.
We are never doing Comic-Con ever again?
I mean, is this pandemic ever going to end?
Eventually.
Anyway, if you liked this one, check out the first one. And in January, you can check out the finale. What's the title of that one? Do you know?
A Crown So Cursed.
A Crown So Cursed.
It's kind of like Return of the King. It tells you what happens in the title.
All right.
I'm so excited.
That one will be out in January. In the meantime, you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or our website, litliteraturepodcast.com.
Yes, and you can follow my random book adventures because I started Owl Crate because I hate myself. Yes, unboxing books. And then if you haven't, there should be a special birthday episode up for me because I'm old. So watch that if you get a chance. If you're feeling very generous, we do have a Patreon. I have twin babies. Casey just got married and is
bought a
moving
house.
to a new house. So anything you guys can give, we really appreciate. We also know times are tough, especially and they're very uncertain. So even if you could just tell people to listen to us or watch us, we would just really appreciate that too.
For sure. So thank you guys so much for listening. We don't have our books planned for next month because we are poor organizers, but they will be made available for you on Twitter and Facebook later. So check those places if you're curious what we're reading next. Thanks so much and have a good night.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. For more information, visit us at litliteraturepodcast.com or check out our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. And remember, too much work and no vacation deserves at least a small libation. Cheers!